us for another week where we discuss all things COVID-19. Again, I'm here with our doctor, our expert, Mr. Dr. Jones. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. Just a lot of things on my mind. Heart's a little heavy by things going on, but let's do it. I'm ready.
So, your heart's heavy?
Yes.
What does that mean? What's going on?
Everything with COVID. I recently lost someone close to me with lung cancer that took a hit on me. You know, someone who was there with me throughout medical school and residency. So,
Well, I'm sorry first of all for your loss, and I think that a lot of people can relate to that. This has been such a trying time for so many different people, living through a pandemic. I can't even imagine how this has weighed heavy on so many different people's mental health.
Yes.
So many kids have tested positive for COVID. I believe over 97,000 children have tested positive for COVID. And that comes as no surprise, simply because a lot of children have started to go back to school.
Yes. So, a lot of good topics we're going to cover today. COVID, the face mask from getting the COVID and so forth. But just to piggyback on what you said with the kids getting it, we're finding out like you don't see on the news, like kids are testing positive, but they're not dying. For a kid to die of COVID is rare. Kids make up 0.08% of the COVID cases.
Interesting.
Yeah. So kids, I think maybe the math is around like a few 100,000 kids have gotten it so far out of 320 million. And in comparison, every year millions and millions of kids get the flu every year. And out of that, about 600 kids die based on statistical modeling. 600 kids die every year from the regular flu. And that's one disease that can be, stop.
And it's interesting because kids are going to get exposed simply because all the germs and, they're putting their fingers in their noses and they're doing all those gross things that parents absolutely hate.
Yeah.
But because they are getting exposed much quicker, that also raises the topic of one of the things that President Trump has said about if everybody gets it, then they develop the antibodies to help also fight against it. What's your opinion on that?
So, Trump saying that is, you gotta realize, it's not, you gotta be real, the people in office are Democrats or Republicans. Mm-hmm. It's so easy to throw Trump under the bus because he's the face of the nation. It's so easy. So, Trump saying something, somebody told him that. I know he says crazy things, but he has advisors and doctors that tell him different things and so forth. They throw him out there like, hey, say hydroxychloroquine saves, and he's out there like, hey guys, then he'll embellish on what he's told. He'll embellish and he'll exaggerate. You're like, oh yeah, we have this promising drug, that hydroxychloroquine, that's been shown in some studies to kind of help. In observational studies, it's not randomized clinical trials, and he'll like, hey guys, we have this drug, it's going to save you, it's going to save lives, it's going to bring life back to normal. Hydroxychloroquine, it's our savior, it's the next coming. But no, that's not what it is.
Well, there's a lot of things that are not exactly what it is. And I think that a lot of his myths have been debunked.
That's right.
And fact-checked. We've been seeing the debates, the presidential debate, I don't know if you saw them last week.
Yeah, it was embarrassing.
Which was interesting. Yeah. And shortly after, he actually contracted COVID-19. So the president of the United States has contracted COVID-19. Now, I don't know whether I should be, and can I say this, excited?
Of course. Say it,
or
of course, say it, yeah.
if we should be, I don't know, afraid. I don't know how to feel right now, but I kind of feel like it's karma.
You could say that because at the same time, it's, as me as a physician, I have the compassion, and if he was my patient, I would treat him to the best I could, best of my knowledge. Personal feelings aside, he's still a human being, I would treat him the best I could. And then once he's better, then I can talk to him about politics and so forth. But because he's a person, so in front of me, I would take care of him. He needs my help, so I would help him if I was his doctor. So basically, I'm gonna get some clarity, some understanding to actually what's going on with Trump. Because people are kind of confused, wait a minute, you have COVID, you're in isolation, then you go to the hospital, you get some treatment, a couple days later, you go home, you're fine, you're talking about how everything's great, you're ready for the debate next week. Is he out of the water? Does he really have COVID? What's the treatments he's getting, and so forth and so forth. And I'm gonna actually highlight those and give more clarity to that. So basically, the incubation period is 2 to 14 days. The average person has symptoms for like 5 days. So all the studies for like, there's no FDA approved treatment for COVID, like zero, nothing. They have emergency use treatment for COVID. Remdesivir is antiviral, which only works in the very beginning in patients who like prophylactic. We have the steroids, Decadron, which is given for 10 days in people who are really severe. And they have like the convalescent plasma that has the antibodies for people who got over COVID to use it. What Trump got was he got the remdesivir in the very beginning.
Right.
He got the steroids in the very beginning before he needed it. And he got this new monoclonal antibody that's been shown in hamsters and monkeys to work, and only tested on 250 human beings. So that was like very beginning, not even stage 1 clinical trial for that antibody test. So, and they did a low dose. He got 4 times the dose they did in the trial because they thought it would be safe. So I'm not sure what's going to happen to stroke. He's definitely not out of the water yet. Around like day 10, 14, hopefully he'll be fine, you know, based on me as a doctor saying that. But it's too early to tell. Like the body is still going through, COVID is still going through its process in his body. And even steroids only decreases your mortality rate by 3%.
Right.
So none of these are like, you know, they get rid of COVID. So
let's just back up. Let's just look at the facts.
Okay.
He's a 74-year-old,
Yeah.
very unhealthy, out of shape. Man, and he probably has pre-existing conditions.
Possibly.
I really don't, I'm not buying it.
Well,
I'm not buying it, and I don't think he has it. I think that this was just another, you know, trick that he's throwing at us, and to be all a part of his big reality show.
It's a possibility, but the one thing that won't lie is his body. So watch everything cautiously the next few days, and from the time he tested positive, I think was Saturday, October like 2nd or so forth, 2nd or 3rd, and watch October 15th and so forth. If he's still healthy and fine, then we can make the argument, I don't think he had it.
I think it's a hoax. I personally think it's a hoax. But and I think that he should be held accountable to the same standards that most Americans that have COVID-19. And I think he has to set an example. And by him still going out and about and riding down the motorcade, waving at us, I don't think that's setting a good example for the American people that do have COVID-19 and that should be home for that 14-day period.
Yeah, I agree. It should be up to a higher standard, but
because the virus is everywhere.
It is,
right? It's literally
it's everywhere. So yeah, so these right here, these are for the beginning of a pandemic, not right now when the virus is everywhere. And actually, speaking of face masks, these masks right here is good enough for the flu. You know, this is good enough for the flu because if you look at it, you have the fibers interwoven. And the particles for SARS coronavirus 2 actually is 0.1 microns. And those can actually go through the face mask. But let's put everything in perspective. The virus is never free floating in the air by itself. It's floating with other particles like the mucus and so the droplets. So you have what's called Brownian motion, to where anything that's small by physics, it goes in a zigzag. So it's going to get caught up in the fibers. Same thing with the influenza particles. So when you wear this is the right way. It's actually sufficient to block the COVID-19. But everyone's like, oh, I need the N95s. You know, they need that. You know, and then they get the gas masks and so forth. You see people wearing those, the face shield. They're just people just going crazy. Everyone's scared. Everyone's scared. So.
Well, I mean, what is the right way to wear a mask? Because I know that you've also just mentioned that, you know, you wear these kind of masks at the beginning of a pandemic. So what kind of mask should we be wearing right now?
So right now, these are fine. I mean, if you wear these all the time like this, make sure it's a good fit, and you press on the crease right here, you're fine. 10% of the cases of COVID are from environmental. So believe it or not, people are catching COVID by doing this. I have COVID, I touch my cell phone, my keys, I go home, I take my mask off, I touch my cell phone, my iPad and so forth, and I rub my eyes and mouth. 10% of the cases are from that. So you have people arguing, oh, you're not wearing your face mask, you wear this. Focusing on the face mask only is like focusing on the front door of your house to keep robbers out. Like there's other ways a robber can get in, not just the front door. So yes, you're helping this way, but what about the other ways of getting it, you know? So
Right.
face mask, definitely great, but don't focus all your attention on the face mask.
That's a really great point, because I think there's so many people they're kind of low-key making a mockery of wearing a face mask.
And yeah, we're making such a mockery of this virus, like everyone doing what they want. For example, you know, I have people arguing about the face mask, wearing it, not wearing it. And here's the thing that you guys don't realize is I'm in the hospital every day with these patients.
Right.
So I see COVID patients there, and I'm starting to see now as the virus is spreading like wildfire, patients are, Dr. Jones, I did everything. I wore the face mask.
That was going to be my next question for you.
Yeah, people are like, I wore the face mask, and they're scared. I wore the face mask. I socially sanitized. I stayed home. I limited. You know, I worked from home, but yet I still got it. And they have a look in their eyes. They're like, am I going to die? And I have to reassure them. I have this some good news. A 92-year-old patient in the hospital, you know, with COVID, and he's fine. 92. So he's good. So this virus, the good news, this virus is not the same one from back in December of 2019. It's actually mutated over 100 times, but the mutated form of this virus is less virulent, which means it's less powerful. So it's actually sparing lives. This virus is mutating so it can stay in the cycle. And I've touched about some other videos, but this virus actually wants to be here for a long time. It doesn't want to just go by the wayside like the original SARS or MERS or the swine flu. So.
Yeah, and that's interesting, because I know that there are a lot of cities that have opened up completely. You know, Atlanta is a great example.
Yeah,
when I go on my Instagram and I look at my friends' pages, and they're completely out. They're having full-on parties, barbecues. There's no social distancing whatsoever, and they're not contracting COVID. A lot of them are. A lot of them aren't. What do you say to that?
So in regards to the parties themselves and going out,
because nobody's wearing masks. The city's completely open, and nobody's taking it seriously.
People are frustrated. People are losing their jobs. They're about to lose their homes. They're going through their savings, their 401ks. Their kids are at home. You know, parents love their kids, but they're driving them wild. They're not at school. They don't get that break. They have to find a babysitter or so forth. But well, the babysitter gives them COVID. There's so many things they have to think about. They're stressed.
Right.
And it's at this point, people are. If you look outside now, you see less and less people taking it seriously. You see less masks. You see less social distancing. I remember I was in a grocery store, people were in the mask, and somebody behind me had a cart. They were like right behind me, like here. And I'm just like, there's demarcated lines in the grocery store for.
Can you back up?
Yeah, like get back up. Yeah, it's just like people are just. They're just so.
Not 6 feet, ma'am.
No, they're done with this. I mean, even like if you look at the news, like the militia are coming out. Like people are just.
Militia coming out for other reasons, and I don't think it's.
Yeah, militia are coming out. I mean, people are just. Health officials, people in charge are getting death threats. I don't know if people know.
Well, who do you think the death threats are coming from? Do you think they're coming from the pharmaceutical companies? Do you think they're coming from Republicans? Do you think they're coming from Proud Boys? I feel like they could be coming from different places.
We don't, but the death threats are coming from, like, people's government officials are being harassed on social media. They're having people show up to their houses and threaten them, do bodily harm. Like, a lot of government officials across the U.S. have to have, like, security, personnel following them around.
And that is just so irritating to me, simply because you have health officials that are trying to look out. Some of them are trying to look out for you, and for the people. But when you have a president who's also giving mixed messages, when he's telling people that this is a bogus virus, people are upset because they don't want to be stuck in their houses because for some reason they trust this guy.
So here's the thing, the virus is definitely something to take seriously, but it's not the type of virus that warrants this type of shutdown. You have other countries, while we're doing this and this mass chaos, other countries, life as usual.
But how can we say that when over 200,000 people have died in the United States from this virus?
COVID. So that number, first of all, is false per the CDC. That number is not that. That's been embellished.
Well, that's also the number that's being promoted.
That is being promoted, but the CDC said these numbers don't make any sense. Because in the very beginning, you had people who were suspected COVID, who died. Even if the test was negative, they still were labeled as they died from COVID. So.
Okay, so what do you say about that as a doctor? So you're saying right now that COVID-19 isn't as deadly as the world has made it out to be?
Well, see, as a doctor, I can't speak on this. Okay. As a molecular microbiology immunologist who has extra training outside of medical school, as a physician, I don't know this stuff, you know. So which is surprising to me why you're going to ask a brilliant cardiothoracic surgeon on TV, a brilliant neurosurgeon, what their thoughts are on COVID. Like, brilliant people don't know that, you know, like, so if you...
But does it make sense to you? Like, when you really think with your common sense, do you really feel like, okay, this virus makes any sense? Because I think the last time we had a discussion, you know, I told you that I've marched, I've been around large groups of people, and I just knew I had COVID. But I tested negative for COVID twice, and I've been in so many different settings when I've been around people. I haven't had a mask on. I have. So it's a really interesting conversation.
No, it definitely is. So like I said, this virus, the mortality rate per the CDC is actually 0.25%. Before they were saying the mortality rate is 10%, 12%. They're trying to make it up there with SARS and MERS.
So in layman's terms, you would say, what, 1 out of 20 people, 1 out of 50 people? How would you put that for the general public to really get?
What I would put for the general public is look at who's getting it, who's dying, and why they're dying. I know people at home watching this video, watching the news, they're like, oh my God, there was a 19-year-old kid at this university who died, who was super healthy, who died of COVID. Like my kid, or I could be next. He was 19, he was thin, he was in shape, running track and so forth. He died of COVID. So that scares a regular person. But when I looked into the details, he didn't die of COVID. He had COVID. A couple of weeks later, he developed what's called Guillain-Barre Syndrome. It's where the immune system attacks the nerves. And it causes paralysis, ascending paralysis from your feet all the way up. That's how he died. His immune system attacked itself 2 weeks later, and he died. He didn't die from COVID.
Was it as a result of him having COVID? Did his immune system try and kick in, you know, and be a little stronger simply because it was fighting off COVID?
So Guillain-Barre syndrome is a rare autoimmune process where your body attacks itself. You can have this from the flu, trauma, any type of trauma, severe car accident, just even going for a general surgery, you get this. Epstein-Barr virus, which a lot of people have cytomegalovirus, Zika virus out there still, hepatitis A, B, and C, which a lot of people have and get, can cause Guillain-Barre syndrome. The regular flu, the regular seasonal flu causes this every year, but it's rare. So this 19-year-old kid, you know, I want to call it a young adult, he caught it, COVID, and as a result, once COVID was cleared from his body, his immune system went into a hyperdrive and caused this antibodies to attack his nervous system, and he died from that. He didn't die from COVID. So it was a complication of COVID. So the same thing, if somebody gets Guillain-Barre syndrome from the flu or getting hepatitis A infection, which is from food, or from trauma, or having a surgery, do we say the surgery killed him? Or the trauma, do we say that Guillain-Barre, like it's...
Well, for me, I guess it's like, to hear it's a complication of COVID, it just sounds like, well, it's a result of COVID.
Yeah.
Because he had COVID, then he developed this. So that's a result of COVID.
So let me ask you this though, I have an allergy to peanuts. If I eat peanuts, enough of it, I can die. Does a peanut kill me?
Yes.
It's my immune system that kills, because you eat peanuts and you're fine.
Yes, but why is it that your body is rejecting the peanuts?
Because
what about the
my
peanuts?
body is making antibodies to a hyperinflammatory response to where I have this mass cell degranulation of my body causing anaphylaxis, throat closing, and so forth, to where I die. I go into shock.
But why is it that you develop that as a result of the peanuts and I don't?
Because your immune system is more in check than mine in regards to peanuts, you know, and so forth, anybody with allergies and so forth. So that's the reason.
Okay.
You know?
So you're saying, and this is also very interesting because I think we also talked about blood types in our last conversation as well. Do you think that that is a result of blood types? Because also I've done research that shows that you should eat according to your blood type. And certain for example, allergies are a result of
Yeah,
your
that's
blood
true.
type.
Yeah, that's true. And blood type O is the best blood type to have for COVID because they're the ones that are getting mild disease, blood type O. And actually, women are not getting as severe diseases as men are.
Interesting, you don't say.
Its hypothesis is that it's the estrogen is protective from COVID. So that's
Well, I mean, they do say that women are the strongest creatures on the face of the planet.
okay. Yeah, they say that it's not been proven.
I mean,
It's not proven,
can
so.
you squeeze out a baby?
No, I can't. No.
There it is.
Okay,
The things that a woman's body can do.
You win. You know what? She won that one. Okay, you won. Like I can't even imagine. So. Okay.
Well, I know we were also having a conversation earlier. You were telling me that there was a quote from the director of Center for ID in Minnesota. And let's talk a little bit about that.
So let me read that quote to you. It's very interesting. Challenges we've had across the board, and it's not just a political party. It's not an administration. It's not any one discipline. Everyone lacked creative imagination to imagine that where we're at today could actually happen. So let me ask you this, Candy. So why are other countries who have no cases, why don't they have any cases?
Well, I think that
if what he said was true, everyone lacked creative imagination to imagine that where we are today could actually happen. If that's true, there should not be a single country on this planet where the people in charge knew what to do to protect their people. If that's true, then explain that to me. I mean,
well, what I can say is that I think that a lot of other countries, for some reason I just can't talk today. A lot of other countries were very smart early on in protecting their people, and a lot of people took COVID a little more seriously. When I think about New Zealand, when I think about so many countries that have no cases whatsoever, it's because they put their emotions to the side. You know, they weren't flexing their ego like our president, and people took it seriously and they kept their butts at home.
so staying at home is one thing, but here's the thing. First, we have to have a government you can trust. That'd be another topic for another
It's a whole other conversation.
And second of all, you have to realize that, okay, one of my quotes I love, the problem with smart people is they don't think anyone else is. So you have brilliant people in power, CEOs, administrators, government officials, brilliant people, smart people who are good at their job. And then they say, okay, well, we have this virus, let's do this, let's do that. And without saying, hey, I know this, but I don't know this, let me ask someone else. Because another quote I like is, even a genius asks questions. You know.
This is also true, but I think the problem that our country has is that we don't just hire smart people to allow them to be smart. Like, for example, why would I hire somebody that has an expertise in something and question every single thing that they do? Like, why do we have Dr. Fauci? You know, why? If President Trump is going to try and trash him every moment that he can get.
Well, Dr. Fauci is an infectious disease doctor.
Exactly.
Like, he's not a molecular microbiologist. He's not a microbiologist, not a virologist. He's infectious disease. So he learns, infectious disease is after you do medical school, you do your residency, then you do a 2-year fellowship to get infectious disease and so forth. Like, you don't learn the same thing that someone else, the pathophysiology of disease and so forth. You don't learn that stuff. You don't need to. You need to learn, okay, somebody has pneumonia, this is how I treat them. This antibody will do this dose. That's what you learn.
Right,
You know?
so is he the wrong person for the job? Are you saying that we should be hearing from someone else who has a little more experience?
What he should do, and hopefully is doing, is talking to other people who know about the virus. Because there's papers written about the coronavirus, MERS, and so forth. Vaccines were developed for the original coronavirus. Like, he needs to talk to those people, because your actually basic community college microbiologists could have told you back in January when they said, okay, in Wuhan, China, we sequenced this virus. It's 80% similar to the original SARS. That person think about this, I want you to put this in perspective. Your person, not at Harvard, Mayo Clinic, Cambridge, your person at your microbiology teaching a regular class, night class, could have said, okay, wow, it's coronavirus. So I'm gonna have asymptomatic cases. It's going to be spread by respiratory droplets.
Okay.
I definitely should wash my hands, keep my distance. I should wear a face mask. It's going to cause similar symptoms to other colds. So I'm not going to be able to tell them apart from who has this. The rhinovirus, adenovirus, and coronavirus is going to look the same. So that person at a community college in the United States right now knows that, you know. Mm-hmm. So imagine how much more brilliant scientists you have at these top universities in this country, how much more they know. Who are sitting in the lab, who actually have their, and they say like, we don't know what this virus is new, we don't know what this virus, but we sequence the virus, we know what it looks like, we know all that.
Well, this is the thing. Mm-hmm. And I think this just goes back to, again, who's in leadership. Mm-hmm. You know, our country, every country is run to a certain extent like a business.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
So what's more important to you, the business or the people? And I think that's the difference between our country and many other countries. Mm-hmm. New Zealand, I'm going to say it again, Canada. You know, a lot of these countries give a damn about their people. Uh-huh. And I think our country saw that with how we were taken care of. The simple fact that we've only received one stimulus check, one $1,200 stimulus check. You know, a lot of people aren't even able to receive unemployment. You know, just the benefits that our country is receiving just shows that we care more about the business side of things. Mm-hmm. We care more about, like, how many different I can't talk today. Vaccinations have been created for this virus. So for me, it's all about big business. You know, like, who can make the most money off of this virus? It just feels like a reality TV show. Like, nobody really gives a damn. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we probably have had the cure for this virus years and years ago. Mm-hmm. But where did this virus come from? It was man-made. It came from the people. So, I mean, do we really? Yeah, we have the answers. We have tons of smart people who can figure this out, but I don't think we want to figure this out. I think that this is great for business. There have been so many people that have become billionaires because of this virus.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think it's more so about the money than it is about helping and saving people at this point.
You know, this is not America, it's corporate America. So,
exactly.
So what you're saying is right. So yes, you're right, and you agree with me that there are brilliant people in this country, like brilliant, who, if they were asked, like, what can we do to protect us from the beginning, we would not be in this situation. That is true, 100%.
I mean, I think a lot of us Americans are thinking the same things. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes it's just hard to really articulate that you've allowed so many people to die for really no reason. No reason at all. Yeah. And the fact that it just seems like a lot of people really don't give a damn.
Yeah.
You know, and here we are, you know, when we first caught wind of this virus, it was in January. We were seeing the things that were happening in China. Yeah. And then when it really finally hit land here in February, you know, it kind of shocked the nation. But now here we are, and it's October, and we're still in a very similar place.
So remember when you asked me earlier why my heart was heavy? Yes, because someone close to me died. But at the same time, because the way you're feeling right now and the way most people are feeling, I felt this way, Candy, back in March. Because I'm like, this does not make any sense. Like, we know what this is. You can look under a microscope, a scanning electron microscope, transmission electron microscope, and see how it looks. You know the size of the particle. You sequence the RNA, the genome. You know the different parts. You know how the virus attaches to which part of the body. Like, you know all of that.
Yeah.
And yet the government's like, oh, we don't know. This is new. Like, just trying to tell the American people, oh, we don't know what this is. Sorry, guys, we're trying to figure this out. Just bear with us. Hang in there. But then I told you, average community, teacher, microbiologist knows this already.
Yeah, and again, we have all these brilliant minds, and they know these things. But then what we also know...
No, the people in charge don't know this.
The people in charge don't know this?
But if they ask the people who do know this, hey, what do we do? Then case closed.
Or maybe they don't want to know. I mean, the simple fact that they're creating false positives. Like, why are they creating false positives? Because they're trying to evoke fear into the minds of the people.
Yeah, but like I said, smart people think that no one else is. So that's where we are, unfortunately. So. And I want to quote another director of the CDC. He says, if everyone wore masks for 4 to 8 weeks, the epidemic would be under control. That's false. Because if everybody wore a mask for 4 to 8 weeks, the cases will do this, and then guess what? The virus is still there. So then guess what? You go back up. So that's the thing with opening everything up. You know, California, I think is the last state, or one of the last states to open up. I think tomorrow, I think Wednesday, October the 7th, we're opening up, right? I think so. What's on the news?
That's what we hear. That's what we hear.
And everyone else has been open and so forth. And people in California, they're frustrated, they're stressed out. I don't know if you've been on the highway driving, people road rage. Everyone's nerves are on the edge. Like everyone, you know.
Yeah.
It's
schools have already begun opening up. You know, parents are ready to get rid of their children.
Yeah, but we'll see. So the California tier system with like, let's open this business up, this business. We'll see how the numbers look, and then we'll close it back up. It's not based on any science at all, like none at all. And so going back to everyone wearing the face mask 4 to 8 weeks, the virus will still be here.
Yeah, the virus isn't going anywhere.
No, unfortunately, no. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but it's...
Yeah, but we've learned to adjust, you know, even in the film and TV industry, you know, we've created, you know, COVID officers on set, you know, and so I think the world is learning how to evolve. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, let's talk about the virus and the way that it's affecting children. Young people have genetic primary immunodeficiencies,
mm-hmm.
More than 300 types in kids.
Mm-hmm. So I'm glad you brought that up. So if we just take a step back, everyone's take a step back, and you have a person, whether it's young, old, whatever their age, mm-hmm. they have an immune system, good, bad, or whatever. The one thing we know that's 100%, you can't dispute, this is a fact. Mm-hmm. You take this back as a fact. A normally functioning, healthy immune system, when it's exposed to COVID, will get rid of it and not show any symptoms. That's a fact.
Right.
Okay? That happens in 50% of people already in this country. That's a fact. Whenever your immune system is not running the right way, that's when you have problems.
Right.
Like me with my immune system is hyperreacting to peanuts. That's not normal. So that's why I avoid peanuts. A kid with a mutation, maybe a single nucleotide polymorphism in the interferon gene or the cytokine, you know, tumor necrosis factor. So any one of the many different types, is over 300, you said.
Right.
Primary immunodeficiencies, any one of those predisposes that kid to getting infections and sick. Even if they get like something even worse than that, like Wish-Cott-Alger syndrome with severe combined immunodeficiency syndrome, like bubble boy, you know, where you can't get any infection, you die, like something small can kill you. Those kids have to be careful. Those are the ones that if COVID reaches them, which is going to, unfortunately, because our country didn't do what it's supposed to in the beginning, mm-hmm. so that kid is at risk for dying. And I read a story a couple months back that actually, it bothered me a lot. So the way you guys feel, everyone feel, I've been feeling this way for months. Like I'm stressed out and I just want to move somewhere else. A young girl, I think around the age of 18 or 19 in Florida, she has risk factors for getting really sick. Every winter, she stays indoors, protects herself, so forth. Springtime came, she has a history of childhood cancer, diabetes, obesity. She went to an event, everyone else was doing well and so forth. She caught COVID. Her symptoms lingered and she died a couple of weeks later from that. None of her friends, it was like 100 people, none of them got it, none of them died, not a single person. She was the one with risk factors. So anytime you hear about young people catching, there's a reason they're catching it. Yeah. Like you just said, the 300 primary immunodeficiencies is one, along with other like risk factors in kids being obese, having neurodevelopmental disorders, cerebral palsy, so forth, heart problems. You know, those are the ones who have to be careful. But kids want to live like everyone else. You can't tell a kid you have to wear a mask and be isolated for the rest of your life. You know, at what point does the quality of life and protecting yourself, where's the line?
But I think it also goes back to that common sense that President Obama mentioned. You know, we have to eat healthier, we have to wash our hands. Mm-hmm. we have to do what we need to do to keep ourselves healthy. I think that this is such a great time because a lot of the responsibilities that we've had in the past, we don't really have those anymore. A lot of us have had more time. Like I have more time now to work out every day. I've changed my eating habits completely. So I think that also reduces your likelihood of also contracting COVID-19.
That's true. And here's the thing that I'm going to throw out to everyone listening. Everyone's worried about, oh, I don't want my daughter or my son to catch COVID and die. And then how will I feel if I lose my child? It's going to be devastating. But what's being seen now is that kid has to deal with their parent dying of COVID. Their mother died of COVID. Their father died of COVID because, I know this is a sensitive topic, because their mother can't watch what they eat, can't exercise, or their father the same thing. And yes, daddy has to work 2 jobs, he's stressed out, making ends meet, mommy, single mom and so forth. She'll eat, whatever she wants because she doesn't have time. But the coronavirus, you talk about like this country and everyone pro this, pro that, and so forth. The coronavirus does not care. It comes to you, if your immune system is strong, you're fine. It comes to your immune system weak, that's it, it's over.
But baby steps are just as simple as just changing your diet.
Yeah, baby steps.
And I understand, sometimes when it comes to working out, that might not be as easy for everyone, but just as simple as, drinking more water.
Yeah.
Incorporating more fruits and veggies into your diet, replacing those sugars with those fruits and veggies.
Yeah, but it's definitely hard. I changed my diet also. I still eat the junk food, like anybody who knows me knows I love candy, cookie, ice cream, Cinnabon, milkshakes, basket.
My language.
I love all that stuff. I used to eat that stuff every day.
Yeah.
I was a lot bigger. But I'm like, well, let me just cut back slowly. Let it be like an enjoyment, like a reward, not something I eat every day.
Right.
So I cut back so I feel healthier and better. I'll still go out and eat junk food, but I've done it more. And actually one thing I took, because as a physician I hear this all the time, day in and day out in the hospital clinic. Dr. Jones, you understand this, I know that, this, that, like, oh, this is why I'm not exercising, oh, this is why I'm not losing weight, this is why I'm not getting enough sleep. Like people, one thing I would tell my microbiology students when I would teach them microbiology, because there'd be a lot of people making excuses, I said the road to failure is paved with excuses.
Right.
The highway to failure is perfectly paved with excuses. Everyone makes excuses. And so you make excuses, you make yourself feel better. Like, I got this big belly, but I'm just so exhausted, I'm huffing and puffing, climbing up 2 flights of stairs, but I gotta make it. Like, you feel better, but you're still having problems with sleep apnea at night, your blood pressure is still high, your cholesterol is still high, your pancreas and liver are overworked, you're getting diabetes. I mean, it's still so. When I tell my patients who we're in a society where it's okay to be big. It's socially acceptable, big is beautiful, big is, and that's fine. So when I talk to a patient, I'm not talking about you on the outside. Everyone is beautiful, I'm talking about what the cholesterol circulating in your blood is doing to your different organs and breaking them down, stressing them out. Mm-hmm. Your immune system is weaker. People who are with the BMI above 34 has 6 times the likelihood. Like just having no other comorbidities, just having a BMI of 34, you're 6 times, if you catch COVID, you're 6 times likely to be in the ICU.
Right. But in order to help fight against COVID, building that immune system is so very important. We also have flu season that's slowly approaching as well.
That's true.
And I've heard a lot of things. People are saying that this might be a very devastating flu season.
That is, but if you think about it, people wear masks. People are socially distancing. People are washing their hands. Like, you don't know how many times I would go, like for the airport, for example, see people walk in the bathroom, walk out. I'm like, are you serious?
Disgusting.
Like, I mean, you don't see that anymore, like, rarely. I haven't seen it since COVID. Like, everyone's washing their, like.
Those culprits are still out there.
I haven't seen it, but like I said, you would see it, like, and then they're shaking hands, and but, so flu season is not, it's gonna the hospitals are still packed during flu season, the hallways and so forth, the ambulance on diversion. I talk about some of my other videos, along with COVID on top of that. But with everyone wearing face masks, we're going to reduce the number of cases of the 200 respiratory viruses, including flu, along with COVID. So the hospital will still be packed, but it won't be as devastating as. And the other thing also, because the cases are coming down, what people don't realize is we're going into the second wave.
Right.
So once the cases come down, we go into the second wave.
Right.
And the Spanish flu of 1918, there was 3 waves.
It was three waves.
3 waves, you know.
So you're saying that the reason why, even after the Spanish flu had 3 different phases, we were able to completely get rid of it is because it went through everyone.
Well, not through everyone. It ran through the fuel source or the reservoirs of human beings. The Spanish flu didn't hit everyone in the whole world. It hit, once it ran out of fuel, like for people to replicate, they take over the machine and take over the virus, to replicate the virus, then once it ran out of that, then it died off.
Okay.
So it didn't affect everyone in the world. It just ran through the people that it was spread, yeah.
Okay, and that's very interesting because quite a few Americans have been affected by COVID-19, which means that they've developed antibodies. But we're hearing that even with antibodies, you're still susceptible to getting the virus again. So does that mean that those people that have antibodies are more likely to be asymptomatic if they were to get the virus again?
Okay, so we can ask one of the cardiothoracic surgeons on TV, or we're going to ask your infectious disease expert, Dr. Fauci, or you're going to ask an immunologist. So if you ask an immunologist, I have the answer for you. So basically, that's for me, when I see the results, it makes sense for me. But to the lay person, there's so much confusion. Well, this positive test, false positives, false negatives, what is this? Specificity, sensitivity, antibodies waning off, like is COVID causing, like what's the truth behind it? I heard the tests are working, they're not. There's a lot of confusion. So let's backtrack. You get the infection, okay? It takes several weeks for your body to mass produce enough antibodies against the virus to get rid of it. And then your body has different, I'm gonna show a picture of the immune system. You know, this is just a picture I'm gonna show right now is a small part of it. Like this is just called macrophages that is just circulating. And this right here is a small piece of the puzzle for how complex your body's immune system is. So you have all of these cells going to attack. You have the cytotoxic T cells, which these tests are not measuring. You have your plasma cells, which make the antibodies, they're not measuring.
Right.
And the antibody these antibody tests, first of all, are just not quality controlled. See, when you have a test in the lab, you gotta realize they've done stringent testing to make sure that whatever test result you get is accurate. Like for example, a typical pregnancy test has gone through so many studies, and like you're pretty sure when you see that result, negative or positive, you can take it to the bank like, hey, that's what you have.
Right.
You know, that's not the case with the COVID test, unfortunately, but we're going to get there. It takes time to develop those kind of tests to where it's that sensitive. And the test needs a certain number of antibodies to say positive or negative, just like the pregnancy test needs a certain number of the hormone test positive or negative. So the antibody, it takes a few weeks, and what they were doing is somebody tests positive for COVID, then they would check the antibody 2 or 3 days later, like, oh, they don't have antibodies. Like, well, you're testing too early. The body doesn't make antibodies that fast.
Right.
You know, test that person weeks later. And then they were finding out that, okay, the person tests positive, and then they don't have antibodies. Then they test them a month later, okay, they're starting to make some antibodies. Then they test them again for the antibodies several months later, and it's declining, they have no antibodies. So people are like, well, does that mean I get COVID again? Am I not immune?
Because that's the big question. If we're going to go through a second.
So let me answer that for you. So if you have 100 people with COVID positive right now, only a small handful are actually contagious. So 100 people positive, only a small percentage are actually transmitting the disease. That's A, because you have inaccurate tests. B,
just because you have a positive test does not mean you're infectious. These tests can stay positive for like 6 to 8 weeks, like after. So even though you're no longer infective, you can still be positive. Like I'm gonna show another picture showing how the different phases of infection and how long it lasts. So you can be positive. Like, so for example, my 92-year-old guy, he came back to the hospital for leg swelling. And I saw him, he was fine, just happy eating, whatever, leg swelling. They tested him for COVID. A month later, he was positive. 4 weeks later, he was positive. But he was not, I had to tell the hospital and everyone, like, he's not contagious, you know?
And how do you know that?
Because when you understand the process of diseases, you're testing, first of all, the test for the viral RNA. It's not testing for the active viral particles.
Okay.
So that's one. So your body is degrading the virus over time. And because he's 92, his immune system is not that efficient at clearing things out.
Right, interesting. So you said it takes about, your 92-year-old patient, the test would still show up positive for 5 weeks. And why is that?
We've seen this as a lifetime. You gotta realize what the test is testing for. It's testing for the RNA. So it's a fact. If you look into all the literature, all the tests, this test will be positive for 6 to 8 weeks after, because you're testing for the RNA of the virus, not for the actual virus itself. So it's going to be positive.
Okay.
So they've done studies to show that if you test the sputum samples of someone or their stool sample, that they were positive, many weeks after, 42 days after at least. So.
Okay. So what is the likelihood that, because we are entering into these fall months, and we are going to have a lot of asymptomatic people who potentially are going to be spreading the virus, because let's just face it, the majority of the country is open. What is the likelihood of a vaccination being put out into the public?
So,
do you think we're close? Do you think we're there?
So the chance of a vaccine being put out, you can put out a vaccine tomorrow. You can put out a vaccine today. But is it going to be effective? Is it going to cause serious side effects? That's another question. So the likelihood of an actual study, so the likelihood of an actual study and safe vaccine being out by, was it November the 3rd, the president promised? 0% chance of a safe one, of an actual vaccine coming out that they just, hey, we're not sure, we haven't completed the studies yet, but this vaccine works in the clinical trials. And like I said before in my videos, you can cure anything in the lab. Cancer has been cured for years in the lab. You can, it's everything can be killed in vitro. We call it in vitro is like in the lab, in vivo is in a person.
Right.
So transitioning from in vitro to in vivo is a different topic.
Yeah, because it's so interesting, because we've seen history repeat itself over and over and over again. It seems like every 100 years there's a pandemic, right? Yeah. But we're not paying attention to or learning from history, it seems. So with that being said, polio was, it shows here, that polio was rushed and 70,000 people died when it came out.
Yeah, but then...
Do you think we're rushing this?
We're rushing these numbers, and you see right here, the vaccine tracker is a list of all the vaccines in the different stages of clinical trials right now going through. Pfizer's has a vaccine, but they said it has some moderate side effects, but they won't tell you what those side effects are. AstraZeneca put their vaccine on a hold because a suspected serious adverse effect, but they won't clarify what that means. And why would you put a vaccine on for one person? If you have one person die and millions of people, that's a good vaccine. So there's something more along with that also. And then actually Kaiser Permanente has a vaccine in phase 3. So everyone's rushing and so forth to get the vaccine out. And actually the government, this is like hot off the press, as of October the 6th, the White House administration said, we're not going to listen to the FDA. We're going to push a vaccine and get it to market and get it out there. They finally conceded, and said, you know what, we're going to follow FDA guidelines. If you follow FDA guidelines, there's no way a vaccine is going to be out by November the 3rd. If you don't follow FDA guidelines, you can have a vaccine today. You know, but following...
With side effects.
Yeah, exactly. So...
I mean, I could grow a third arm based on the side effects. Who knows? Or maybe like another eye right in the middle of my head. I don't know. But it sounds like nobody really has the answers, and we are about to go into another phase of this virus. So how do we prepare for it? Outside of building your immune system and taking care of yourself.
That's it. Take care of yourself, and you know, that's pretty much it. And just to throw this out there, everyone's like, well, what are the risks of taking a experimental vaccine early that's not being tested? So right now, there's testing. So that one 9-year-old kid I was talking about that died of Guillain-Barre Syndrome, vaccines that have not been studied have been shown, like polio vaccine, to cause Guillain-Barre Syndrome where the nervous system attacks itself. You get infectious anaphylaxis, like you have adverse immune response to the vaccine, because you have to realize you're manipulating your body.
Right.
Anything that manipulates your body can cause adverse effects. You can die from the vaccine. Like there's so many, as we see with polio, there's so many side effects that phase 3 is the longest phase and the largest trial, because if you test 100 people in phase 2, that is not a good sample population of everyone in the world, 7 million people. You have to test hundreds of thousands of people and say, okay, well, this vaccine is safe. Like there's been so stringent and rigorous testing for the flu vaccine that people still will say, no, I'm not going to take it.
Right.
You know,
I won't take. I refuse to take it. I'm one of those people. But what I will do is I will take vitamins that are going to boost my immune system. You know, high levels of vitamin C and vitamin D, and I think it's been reported that a lot of people that have also been infected have had low levels.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because people always ask me, oh, Dr. Jones, I'm sick, so I'm going to take my vitamin C. This is even before COVID. Oh, I'm sick. I'm going to take my vitamin E. I'm going to take my vitamin D. That's a myth. Before you get sick.
It's a myth.
No, so before you get sick, if you take your vitamin C, your vitamin D, your vitamin E, in appropriate doses, I have a picture up here that shows like the vitamin D is anti-inflammatory, which immune cells acts on. But if you take too much vitamin D, it messes up the receptors to which vitamin D binds, and it actually messes up the inflammatory response and causes damage. So the studies show that vitamin D in someone who's really sick with any bacterial infection, pneumonia, or even COVID, if they have low vitamin D, you give them vitamin D in the ICU or the hospital, it doesn't do anything.
Okay.
But that same person before, if you give them the vitamin D, is actually protective against getting, sick, like really sick. So,
interesting.
So that's why, so once you're already there in the hospital, the vitamin D, the vitamin C is not going to work. It's too late.
Okay.
Same thing with the zinc. Zinc has been shown to block the virus from binding to the respiratory epithelial cells. But once you're already sick, zinc, and I think the president actually, I remember he took zinc, melatonin, which I'm not sure why.
What?
Aspirin, which
melatonin?
Melatonin for aspirin, which helps for clots. He should be taking aspirin anyway of his age and so forth. And the other cocktail drugs for COVID. So zinc. So even the president was taking the zinc and the vitamin C. So because it was early, so the president's hoping that he's taking those things early enough to where it would keep him from being in the hospital. So
interesting. Well, wow. It's there's just so much information surrounding COVID, taking your vitamins and how you can be exposed and how you keep yourself safe. I know a lot of people are getting tested. I know there are a lot of testing centers that are popping up that are very local that you can walk to. When I just think about and I just look at this amazing neighborhood, my neighborhood downtown, there are so many testing centers that I could easily walk to, which is great. A lot of antibody testing centers. What would you like to say in reference to that? Because now is the time.
The testing,
things have slowed down, right?
So first of all, believe it or not, there's still not enough testing. We don't have enough tests. Believe it or not.
Really?
We don't have enough tests. And just to go back to the testing for antibody stuff. So when you have that vaccine that comes out, there's going to be 2 doses of vaccine spread a month apart. So you're going to need for the whole world 15 billion doses. Do you know how long it's going to take to make 15 billion doses of a vaccine? So
A long time.
A long time. So everyone's thinking like, oh, it's going to be over tomorrow, next week. No, it's not. So I'm not trying to bring anyone down. I'm just trying to give you information.
Right.
So that you can better make decisions in your life and so forth.
Right.
But then, like you said, with the accuracy of antibodies, so the tests are not accurate. They did a study. They did 40 different types of tests, antibody tests for COVID, and they found they were barely over 50% accurate. So that person who has COVID, they go get the test for antibodies, and it says negative. They're like sad. First of all, is that test accurate? 2, did it test for the right antibody? Your body makes antibodies to different epitopes or parts of a virus, the spike protein, the nucleocapsid, so forth. So the antibody test is the easiest one they made. Is for the nucleocapsid, which your body gets rid of the fast because it's not that useful. They're not checking for the spike protein and so forth. That antibody is the one your body makes long term. And your body, for example, is like, for example, you don't have all of your cash in your pocket. You pull cash out when you need it.
Right.
Same thing with your body. Your plasma cells, memory cells, are not going to make antibodies unless it's needed. So you're exposed to things every day. I had COVID already. I know I've been exposed to COVID again. So when I get exposed to COVID again, my body, instead of taking a few weeks to make antibodies, takes a few hours.
Interesting.
A few hours.
A few hours.
So depending on my health at the time of me being exposed to COVID again, dictates how I'm going to feel. Because if I'm working night shifts, I'm doing like construction nights, I'm not sleeping, I'm not exercising, I'm so exhausted, and I'm stressed out, then my immune system can't work at optimal. You know, can't be optimal, and then I'm going to maybe show a little bit of something, but let me get over it. Because I've already had it, my body has antibodies.
Right.
Your body's not going to pump out antibodies at high levels forever. Like, that's a waste of energy.
Right.
And you got to think about it. Every drop of blood has 1 billion antibodies to a multitude of different infections.
So it's possible to have a negative test and positive antibodies.
It's possible because the test was wrong, and then the antibody test. If there's enough antibodies to make that test positive, like a pregnancy test, hormones, then you would have positive antibody. But your body goes down to basal level transcription, we call it in molecular biology, basal level transcription of these proteins in translation. So those antibodies that are circulating in the body are not being detected. But let COVID come back into that person, and then in a few hours, you're going to be able to test antibodies like nothing.
Because I know there are also aftershocks, right, of COVID.
Yes, it's called post-COVID syndrome. And actually, I had that, where I felt weak for a few weeks after. You know, like, depending on how sick you were, your body can just become drained. You got to realize your whole body is being involved.
But I'm hearing that these aftershocks are something that could possibly be with you for the rest of your life in some cases.
Especially people with like comorbidities, because their body's already damaged from what they have.
Right.
And then you add COVID on top of that, it causes damage. So you're going to have irreversible side effects. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's scary because it's, you know, potentially for the rest of your life. Nobody really knows. So let's move forward. Lasting effects of quarantine. Do you think quarantine will be something that they're going to continue to carry out because they have technically opened up the rest of the world? So is there going to still be a such thing as quarantine in this next phase?
The second phase of the virus?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what happened. Like I said, if you look at history, you know, they say like, oh, easily we forget history. First wave went up, everyone's scared, the cases come down, like, yay, let's open up. Let's, you know, the cases go up, oh, we're scared, let's close everything. They come down, yay, let's open up. We go to the third phase. So that's what's happening now. People are becoming lax, cases are going down. People are becoming cautiously optimistic, which you should be. But then they're going and doing different things. But the reason the case is going to go up because you go into the restaurant, I walk through the restaurant door, and this is, to any scientist watching this, doesn't make any sense. I walk through the restaurant like this. Like this, literally. I walk to the restaurant. My table is right here. As soon as I sit down, I'm okay. The coronavirus won't get me while I'm here.
But the second I stand up, I got to put the mask on because the coronavirus is going to get me right here. Right here, I'm safe. But right here, I'm not in a restaurant. So that's what a lot of restaurants, I know you don't know, I've been like to Nevada, so forth, working. So in Nevada, that's what you have to do. California, tomorrow, you're going to find the same thing. You're going to walk in, you're going to have a mask, and then you're going to sit down and you take it off. Like, hey, and I hate that because
it's really weird and it's backwards, and I think it's just something that's being used just to make people feel comfortable about living their life, because again, outside of COVID, there are lasting effects of quarantine and COVID, which is depression, which is suicide, which is mental illness.
Yes.
And those are the things that we're also fighting against. I know of at least 3 men that have committed suicide. And I think in large part, you have to sit with yourself.
Yeah.
And you have to struggle and deal with a lot of those emotional feelings, and a lot of that is loneliness because you are quarantining by yourself.
And just to piggyback on that, I know of a girl who felt lonely and she hung herself. Depression, anxiety are up by 30%. And so people are killing, like there's...
So do we go back to quarantining in this next phase? And then I think that's kind of, what we need to talk about. So many people that aren't necessarily safe are at home. What do they do? Because as this virus really starts to spike, who's really safe?
So the thing is, the kids are safe. Everyone's worried about the kids. So the kids, they show that you have 121 kids about that died so far COVID over the past how many months. And most of them had comorbidities and primary immunodeficiency syndromes. There was not anybody who was, like I said, the one thing we know about this virus is a healthy person with a good, healthy with a normally functioning immune system is going to be fine, not even show symptoms. If you have any abnormality with your immune system, puts you at risk, not a guarantee.
Right.
It puts you at risk of having complications and dying from COVID. That's why they have in kids this pediatric multisystemic inflammatory syndrome. Is where their immune system a couple of weeks later goes into hyperdrive and they end up in a hospital with heart problems and so forth. And that's rare. So, but only a handful of those kids died, thankfully.
But that's why it's important also that, again, I think it goes back to that common sense we've mentioned quite a few times, what are your eating habits like, how are these parents feeding their children?
Yeah.
Are you allowing your kids to exercise a little bit? Are you as a parent getting out there and exercising?
Yeah.
Because, I've heard healthy people don't die from COVID, but I've also heard of healthy people dying from COVID. It just seems like COVID really has it doesn't pick and choose who it wants to.
But healthy is a bad term I hate because that 19-year-old kid who died, his immune system, just like that peanut, it's not what kids, my immune system killed me, not the peanut.
Would you consider yourself a very healthy person?
Healthy, not right now, only because I'm not getting enough sleep. I worked last night actually, I'm not getting enough sleep.
Good point. Sleep is another thing.
I'm stressed because everything going on. Like I have the patient's family saying, hey, sorry,
Right.
a lot of stress in that aspect, and phone calls and so forth. And I'm working again tonight. So I'm under stress. So I know stress and lack of sleep is hurting my immune system. So what I'm doing is trying to drink more water, eating healthy, doing what I can to help my immune system, because once I finish nights, I'm gonna go back working out tomorrow, getting good night's sleep, and I know what's going on with my body. Yeah. So me personally, right now, my body's under a lot of stress.
Right.
But I'm making changes in my life so that I can be better.
And that's such a great point, because we always talk about intake and what we're putting inside of our bodies, but sleep is very important. And our level of stress is important.
Sleep actually is when your body repairs itself, A, and B, the inflammation of your body actually goes down. So your sleep is very important for that. So lack of sleep, stress, all that raises your inflammation. And then you're overweight, that raises your inflammation even more. That's why and then you get an infection, it pushes your inflammation through the roof. And that's why people die who are overweight from COVID. So the person I know, unfortunately sad story, was 38,
a father of two. He died. He was a truck driver. He worked nights, wasn't sleeping, eating fast food, wasn't exercising, under a lot of stress.
Right.
He was the primary person to have complications with COVID. And unfortunately, he died.
Yeah.
I didn't get to meet him. He was one of my colleagues' patients who was telling me the story at the same hospital. But everyone in the hospital was like, I don't understand. He was healthy.
Yeah.
Everyone says, I'm like, how could you say he was healthy?
And I've heard that way too many times.
He wasn't healthy.
He was healthy. Yeah, but it's like, what does healthy mean? Like, what does that mean? Because like you said, I think I'm a very healthy person, but when I really sit back and think, am I getting enough sleep? No. You know, how do I handle stress? How do I carry stress? How do I deal with stress?
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of us, we hold it in our stomachs.
Yeah.
And I've also heard that your stomach is like a second brain. It operates as like another brain.
We have a lot of fat cells and so forth.
Right.
So for me saying on this video that right now I'm not healthy, it's probably surprising to a lot of people.
But
because I'm in shape. Like I'm toned. I'm in shape.
You look extremely healthy, right?
Thank
You're
you.
a doctor.
But from a molecular biology standpoint, I'm not. I'm stressed. I didn't get a good night's sleep last night or tonight. And I didn't eat healthy, and I didn't exercise today. So I know that I'm not healthy right now.
Right.
You know, and healthy is more than just your body weight.
Thank you.
It's not just your body weight, because you come to my clinic and most of the people in there look healthy. But you don't know that person on dialysis, that person's on insulin 5 times a day, that person had a stroke last, you don't know that.
Right. And I think
healthy.
this is a great opportunity to step outside of the code for a second.
Okay.
And when I say that, just meaning, I think it was really great for your viewers to hear you say, no, I'm not healthy, and it's because of these reasons that are non-clinical.
Yeah.
So thank you for humanizing yourself and stepping outside of the code, which is also very important. And to kind of keep you outside of the code for a quick second, what message do you want to give to just people, outside of just your patients, but just people that are in a very interesting place? What do you want to say?
Interesting as far as stressed out, or what do you mean?
I mean, I think everybody is handling what's happening with COVID-19 very differently. What's happening with our country. There's so many things to think about. You mentioned the young lady that hung herself, which my condolences go to her family, as well as I've mentioned. I know at least 3 people who have committed suicide. So let's talk about mental health for a second. Okay. And when I say step outside the code, we're all human beings.
Yeah,
so let's address the people as human beings rather than patients or COVID patients, whatever.
I mean, it's really sad, and mental health is actually on the rise. I also work in a mental health hospital, so I see the effects. People, having suicidal ideation, wanting to run into traffic. One person said they want to jump off a bridge, and one person wants to overdose on medications. Like, I see all of these things. I work in a mental hospital also. And I'm seeing more patients now than ever. At this one hospital, I do like a medical consult on these psych patients. I normally have like 4 or 5 patients. Today, I was there a long time because I had 14 patients.
Yeah.
And I never have that. So this is actually trying times. People are anxious, they're stressed out and so forth. And the reason for these videos is to just highlight what's going on, like just to give you the facts. From a molecular biologist, not Dr. Jones. Dr. Jones doesn't know this stuff.
Right.
Yes, I'm a physician, but I'm a molecular biologist.
But you're also a human being.
I am also, so I want to help people to get back and so forth.
Right.
So, yeah.
And we also want to make sure that this is extremely relatable for you, all of you that's watching. So we appreciate your transparency. We thank you for your honesty. And before we wrap up this conversation, what do you do to de-stress? Because you've got so much on your shoulders right now. And I think I heard you say something about going to the Caribbean.
I do go on vacations, actually. I'm just careful. I do wear my mask, so I practice what I preach. Right. But at the same time with the mask, I do know its limitations. So I know that the only thing that can protect me 100% is my immune system. The mask will protect me some. The social distancing will protect me some. The washing my hands, yes. Not touching my face, eyes, nose, yes. But the one thing that protects me 100% is my immune system.
Right.
So my main focus is, wear this, but your main focus should not be on this. It should be on yourself, your body.
Creating that balance, So guys, I urge all of you out there that's watching this right now to find that balance. I know COVID, it's a lot. It's extremely heavy on our mind, on our body, and our soul, spiritually. But I urge you to find that balance and find a way to find peace within your life. I know for me, I've been working on my mental health because it takes you to a place of not really knowing what to do. Who do I talk to? And exercising and finding ways to go out and have fun with friends and talking to friends and not holding everything in has been great for me. And also learning how to heal from those things that you don't necessarily talk about. Extremely important.
Yeah, and to segue on that, is so many people with stress and so forth, there's people that I'm around and, that if anyone watches this video or anyone, even though I don't know you, just reach out to me. I'd rather you reach out to me as a professional, somebody that can help you. If you're my friend, great, you're my family, and so I love you, and you're my patient, I love you too. Or if I never met you, you can reach out to me. You have my contact information. You have my Instagram, my social media platform, you contact me, YouTube, email, my website, everything. My phone number is even on my website. You can send me a text message, and I would rather you wake me up at 2 a.m. to keep you from jumping off the bridge. And I'm being serious because I see those patients in the hospital all the time. I'd rather you do that than for me to get some sleep and you had no one to talk to. So
thank you.
I want to do my part. You're going to do your part also.
Absolutely.
And I love you guys and thank you for watching and
Thank you. Thank you for joining us again, guys. You can contact him again on his website, on his social media. How can they find you on social media?
Instagram at Dr. Andrew Jones MD, and my email address is on there also, and website. So,
all right.
below, so yeah.
Until next time, again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more COVID conversations.
Take care, guys.